Ralph and Piggy lay in the sand gazing at the fire and idly flicking pebbles into its smokeless heart. "That branch is gone." "Where's Sam and Eric?" "We ought to get some more wood. We're out of green branches." Ralph sighed and stood up. There were no shadows under the palms on the platform, only the strange light that seemed to come from everywhere at once. High up among the bulging clouds, thunder went off like a gun. So there's a storm coming, and we just talked about the pathetic fallacy. So remember, pathetic fallacy, nature mimics human emotions. This is some foreshadowing here. The storm is brewing. We're going to get buckets of rain. What about the fire? Ralph trotted into the forest and returned with a wide spray of green which he dumped on the fire. The branch crackled, the leaves curled, and the yellow smoke expanded. Piggy made an aimless little pattern in the sand with his fingers. "Trouble is, we haven't got enough people for a fire. You got to treat Sam and Eric as one turn. They do everything together." "Of course." "Well, that isn't fair, don't you see? They ought to do 2 turns. Ralph considered this and understood. He was vexed to find how little he thought like a grown-up and sighed again. The island was getting worse and worse. Piggy looked at the fire. "You'll want another green branch soon." Ralph rolled over. "Piggy, what are we going to do?" "Just have to get on without 'em." "But the fire." He frowned at the black and white mess in which lay the unburnt ends of branches. He tried to formulate, "I'm scared." He saw Piggy look up and blundered on. "Not of the beast. I mean, I'm scared of that too. But nobody else understands about the fire. If someone threw you a rope when you were drowning, if a doctor said, 'Take this, because if you don't take it, you'll die,' you would, wouldn't you? I mean, course I would." "Can't they see? Can't they understand? Without the smoke signal, we'll die here. Look at that." A wave of heated air trembled above the ashes, but without a trace of smoke. "We can't keep one fire going, and they don't care. And what's more," he looked intensely into Piggy's streaming face, "what's more, I don't sometimes. Supposing I got like the others, not caring, what'd become of us?" Piggy took off his glasses, deeply troubled. "I don't know, Ralph. We just got to go on, that's all. That's what grown-ups would do." Ralph, having begun the business of unburdening himself, continued, "Piggy, what's wrong?" Piggy looked at him in astonishment. "Do you mean the—" "No, not it. I mean, what makes things break up like they do?" Piggy rubbed his glasses slowly and thought. When he understood how far Ralph had gone toward accepting him, he flushed pinkly with pride. "I don't know, Ralph. I expect it's him." "Jack?" "Jack." A taboo was evolving around that word, too. And taboo just means something is forbidden. Ralph nodded solemnly. "Yes," he said, "I suppose it must be." The forest near them burst into uproar. Demoniac figures with faces of white and red and green rushed out howling, so that the little ones fled screaming. Out of the corner of his eyes, Ralph saw Piggy running. 2 figures rushed at the fire, and he prepared to defend himself, but they grabbed half-burnt branches and raced away along the beach. The 3 others stood still, watching Ralph, and he saw that the tallest of them, stark naked save for the paint and a belt, was Jack. So there are like no clothes left on Jack. And remember, clothes are a symbol of civilization or society. Jack is like completely wild now. Ralph had his breath back and spoke. "Well?" Jack ignored him, lifted his spear and began to shout. "Listen, all of you! Me and my hunters, we're living along the beach by a flat rock. We hunt and feast and have fun. If you want to join my tribe, come and see us. Perhaps I'll let you join. Perhaps not." He paused and looked round. He was safe from shame or self-consciousness behind the mask of his paint, and could look at each of them in turn. Ralph was kneeling by the remains of the fire like a sprinter at his mark, and his face was half hidden by hair and smut. Sam and Eric peered together round a palm tree at the edge of the forest. A little one howled, creased in crimson by the bathing pool, and Piggy stood on the platform, the white conch gripped in his hands. "Tonight we're having a feast. We've killed a pig and we've got meat. You can come and eat with us if you like." Up in the cloud canyons, the thunder boomed again. Jack and the two anonymous savages with him swayed, looking up and then recovered. The little one went on howling. Jack was waiting for something. He whispered urgently to the others now. "Go on now." The two savages murmured. Jack spoke sharply. "Go on." The two savages looked at each other, raised their spears together, and spoke in time. "The chief has spoken." Then the three of them turned and trotted away. Presently Ralph rose to his feet, looking at the place where the savages had vanished. Sam and Eric came, talking in an awed whisper. "I thought it was, and I was scared." Piggy stood above them on the platform, still holding the conch. "That was Jack and Maurice and Robert," said Ralph. "Aren't they having fun?" "I thought I was going to have asthma." "Sucks to your asthma." "When I saw Jack, I was sure he'd go for the conch. Can't think why." The group of boys looked at the white shell with affectionate respect. Piggy placed it in Ralph's hand, and the little ones, seeing the familiar symbol, started to come back. "Not here." He turned toward the platform, feeling the need for ritual. First went Ralph, the white conch cradled, then Piggy, very grave, then the twins, then the little ones and the others. "Sit down, all of you. They raided us for fire. They're having fun, but the..." Ralph was puzzled by the shudder that flickered in his brain. There was something he wanted to say. Then the shudder had come down. "But the..." They were regarding him gravely, not yet troubled by any doubts about his sufficiency. But he says, not yet troubled. And that seems to indicate that with time, these kids will become troubled by Ralph's inability to lead effectively. Ralph pushed the idiot hair out of his eyes and looked at Piggy. "But the... oh, the fire! Of course, the fire!" He started to laugh, then stopped and became fluent instead. "The fire's the most important thing. Without the fire, we can't be rescued. I'd like to put on war paint and be a savage, but we must keep the fire burning. The fire's the most important thing on the island because... He paused again, and the silence became full of doubt and wonder. Piggy whispered urgently, "Rescue!" And this is a sign of atavism that Ralph can't remember that they need to be rescued. It's like he's starting to regress to some primitive state. "Oh yes, without the fire we can't be rescued, so we must stay by the fire and make smoke." When he stopped, no one said anything. After the many brilliant speeches that had been made on this very spot, Ralph's remarks seemed lame, even to the little ones. So these guys are like, this is kind of silly now, talking about this fire and rescue. At last Bill held out his hands for the conch. "Now we can't have the fire up there, because we can't have the fire up there. We need more people to keep it going. Let's go to this feast and tell them the fire's hard on the rest of us. And the hunting and all that. Being savages, I mean, it must be jolly good fun." Sam and Eric took the conch. "That must be fun like Bill says, and he's invited us to a feast. Meat. Crackling. I could do with some meat." Ralph held up his hand. "Why shouldn't we get our own meat?" The twins looked at each other. Bill answered, "We don't want to go into the jungle." Ralph grimaced. "He, goes. He's a hunter. They're all hunters. That's different." No one spoke for a moment. Then Piggy muttered to the sand, "Meat." The little one sat solemnly thinking of meat and dribbling. Overhead the cannon boomed again, and the dry palm fronds clattered in a sudden gust of hot wind. This next part involves Simon, and he's still having that conversation with the pig's head. And again, remember, it's really a conversation that Simon's having with himself. It just, in Simon's mind, it seems like the pig's head is talking to him. "You're a silly little boy," said the Lord of the Flies. "Just an ignorant, silly little boy." Simon moved his swollen tongue, but said nothing. "Don't you agree?" said the Lord of the Flies. "Aren't you just a silly little boy?" So Simon's kind of in this delirium state where he's dehydrated and his mind is playing tricks on him. Simon answered him in the same silent voice. "Well then," said the Lord of the Flies, "you'd better run off and play with the others. They think you're batty. You don't want Ralph to think you're batty, do you? You like Ralph a lot, don't you? And Piggy and Jack?" Simon's head was tilted slightly up. His eyes could not break away, and the Lord of the Flies hung in space before him. "What are you doing out here all alone? Aren't you afraid of me?" Simon shook. "There isn't anyone to help you. Only me. And I'm the beast." Simon's mouth labored, brought forth audible words. "Pig's head on a stick." "Fancy thinking the beast was something you could hunt and kill," said the head. For a moment or two the forest and all the other dimly appreciated places echoed with the parody of laughter. "You knew, didn't you? I'm part of you. Close, close, close. I'm the reason why it's no go. Why things are what they are." And so here you have it. The beast is saying, I'm really a part of you. I really live inside you. The laughter shivered again. "Come now," said the Lord of the Flies. "Get back to the others and we'll forget the whole thing." Simon's head wobbled. His eyes were half closed as though they were imitating the obscene thing on a stick. He knew that one of his times was coming on. So it says he knew that one of his times was coming on. And so to me that seems like maybe he's epileptic and he's going to have a seizure, or maybe he has some other condition and he knows he's about to black out or go into a state where he's not going to have an active consciousness. The Lord of the Flies was expanding like a balloon. "This is ridiculous. You know perfectly well you'll only meet me down there. So don't try to escape." Simon's body was arched and stiff. The Lord of the Flies spoke in the voice of a schoolmaster. "This has gone quite far enough. My poor misguided child, do you think you know better than I do?" There was a pause. "I'm warning you. I'm going to get angry. Do you see? You're not wanted, understand? We're going to have fun on this island. Understand? We're going to have fun on this island. So don't try it on, my poor misguided boy, or else." Simon found he was looking into a vast mouth. There was blackness within, a blackness that spread. "Or else," said the Lord of the Flies, "we shall do you. See? Jack and Roger and Maurice and Robert and Bill and Piggy and Ralph. Do you see?" Simon was inside the mouth. He fell down and lost consciousness. So Simon understands the inherent nature of evil living within inside man. So he knows that humans have a good side and a bad side, and that there is evil on this island, and it is the boys. There is no beast. So that's it for chapter 8. Next time we're going to get into chapter 9, and we'll find out about this feast that Jack is having that everybody's going to go to. And remember that there's also a storm approaching, and that's a metaphor for things that are going on the island. So, until next time.